Thanks for logging on to Wayne.com for another edition of Inside the Zone alongside Tom Davis, who unfortunately didn't wear a tuxedo today. You have to wear a tuxedo to do high school internet football. I'm going to let you slide on this one.
I appreciate the slack
there you go.
that you're giving me. I feel a little bit underdressed.
Well, I feel a little overdressed, but then we'll meet in the middle, so we'll be fine.
Sounds good.
Before we look ahead to the games this coming Friday, I want to take a look back because it's one of the best games I think fans have seen in the most recent years of high school football here in the Fort Wayne area. Homestead East Noble, a classic, instant classic game out at Dave S. Walters Field on Friday night. What did you see in that game that impressed you the most?
I saw a lot of offense is what I saw. Over 1,000 yards of total offense. A.J. Dove was absolutely spectacular. Here's the thing. Zach Carroll was really good in his own right. Had a rushing touchdown, threw for 3 touchdowns. He was the second best quarterback on the field that night. A.J. Dove took part in 6 touchdowns, 2 rushing, 4 throwing. His underhanded toss to Jordan Gator with less than 60 seconds to go kept the drive alive, and then his touchdown pass with 13 seconds. But then Homestead wasn't done. They rallied, great kickoff return, then a great throw to Jake Weber, got it all the way down to the 1-yard line. Very reminiscent of the Tennessee Titans Super Bowl loss where the guy fell just 1 yard short. It was just absolutely incredible evening. It was one big play after another, 4 touchdowns in the first 4 minutes of the game. The only thing I can think that really compares to it as far as my career and having seen great football was last year's Lewis Cass Bishop Luers tournament game that went into, 4 overtimes, I believe. Yeah, that was an incredible night as well. But it was just a really thrilling game between 2 rivals, and the kids from East Noble came out on top, and it meant the world to those kids because they had lost 5 years in a row to Homestead. Yeah,
when you take a look at it, you have to look at both sides of it, because is that, if you're Homestead, is that a devastating loss for you? How do you bounce back from that? And if you're East Noble, how do you, I guess, kind of come down from that high and get ready for the rest of the season? Because I know it goes a long way in deciding who wins that conference, but there's a lot of football still.
Oh, absolutely there is. There's a lot of football beginning this week when Homestead battles Columbia City, who's unbeaten in the league. So you have to put that behind you. You have to learn from your mistakes on both sides of the ball, both East Noble and Homestead. Obviously, they weren't perfect. Their defenses left a lot to be desired, giving up that much offense. So you have to learn from it, but you can't. I mean, what you did last week matters nothing this week. But obviously, Homestead battling Columbia City, they've got to correct their defensive lapses.
All right, and let's talk about some of the games you're going to be seeing this coming Friday in the SAC. Harding at Luers, no matter what the records are, that's always going to be a hard-fought game because they're not too far apart geographically. You're talking about the Battle of Paulding. Harding comes in 1-2 with a win against Hicksville last week. Luers has been dominant in 3 wins, including that opener against Snyder. What do you expect to see in this football game?
Well, they may be close geographically, but they're not on the football field. Harding's going to lose this game and lose by a lot. No offense to Harding. Bishop Luers is just that good. James Kanapke hit his stride last week with 4 touchdown passes. But I will give Harding credit against Hicksville. They had really good balance. Zach Bode-Haydock threw the ball really well, and then they had Devin Washington running the ball and Trevon Carr running the ball. So had really good balance offensively, but Hicksville is not Bishop Luers, and this isn't going to be very close.
If you're Sherwood Haydock, what do you go into this week thinking? I mean, what's your goal? Obviously the goal is always to win, but what do you have to minimize to give your team a chance?
Well, you have to run the ball so that you keep that Bishop Luers offense off the field, but that's easier said than done against the Bishop Luers defense, which has been outstanding this year. So, but that's what Harding's going to try to do, is keep possession of the ball. Zach Bode-Haydock cannot throw interceptions, can have turnovers in this game. Special teams will be really key. You can't allow Luers to get good kickoff returns or good punt returns. All the little things, taking care of the ball on special teams and running the ball, that will be the key for Harding, if indeed they have any chance at all in this game.
Yeah, they got to stop James Kanapke too, because he's really impressed and really improved, it seems, from his sophomore year as a starting quarterback to this, his junior season, would you say?
He has so many different weapons that I don't want to say it's easy because it's hard to play quarterback, but he has multiple options that he can go to. It's not like he just has one guy he can try to go to, but if he has to, he'll go to other guys. He can go all the way through his progressions and still hit a great receiver on his 4th read. So Luers is just devastating this year on both sides of the ball.
And taking another look at another game in the SAC, Wayne at Northside. Both teams come in 2-1. Interestingly enough, they both have wins against the same schools. They both have beaten Harding and both have beaten Concordia. So when you score compare, it's relatively similar because Wayne has won their games against those two competitors 86-32, and Northside has won a 53-19. What do you take away from those numbers, if anything?
Well, what I take away after seeing what both teams have done this year is that Wayne has a really powerful offense. They have multiple guys that can run the ball, and you think, well, Jordan Patterson, their quarterback's a running quarterback. He's a threat that way, and he is, but last week he threw the ball really well. He had 5 touchdowns last week, 3 rushing and 2 passing, and their offense is really clicking on all cylinders right now. Northside, conversely, their offense is struggling this year. They are not putting up a lot of points. I don't think that Northside has the offensive capability to hang with Wayne this year. Wayne is just a really solid program. Kyle Beauchamp's doing a nice job, stepped in there and has kept the ball rolling. Their momentum's been building for several years, but they have a lot of seniors this year that are just really talented. So I look for Wayne to really just outscore Northside this year.
Yeah, and I think Northside's still adjusting to a sophomore quarterback. Josh Hagelberger in that Harding game was injured, hurt his foot. He's going to be out 4 weeks. That's the best possible scenario. So C.J. Jackson, while he did come in and score and do some good things in the win, in the 4 overtime win against Harding, he's still a sophomore quarterback learning on the go in the SAC. Moving on to the NHC, Carroll at New Haven, an interesting game because of the success that these teams have had early in the season. Carroll 2-1, New Haven 3-0. What, in your mind, is going to be the biggest key heading into the Friday night for that game?
Well, it's going to be really interesting because Carroll's strength this year under their new coach has been their defense. New Haven's strength has been their offense. Now, they haven't been bad defensively either, but when you have Tavon Hurst, who's was the #1 running back in the state, yardage-wise, going into last week. I haven't seen the updated stats for this week yet. I'm sure he is, though, because he's garnered almost 800 yards in rushing this year. They want to run the ball, but Carroll's been great at stopping the run this year. So it'll be interesting to see that matchup, who can win that battle. But you have to give Doug Dinan absolute credit for stepping into Carroll and just doing a magnificent job of getting those kids' confidence up and believing that they can have success.
And as far as this game goes, when it comes to stopping a guy like Hurst, I mean, what do you do in practice throughout the whole week? Because Lucas Salerno's a pretty darn good quarterback, so they have a passing game. They're not just entirely one-dimensional, although Hurst has been the workhorse for them. I mean, what do you go into this practice thinking, this practice week, if you're Doug Dinan?
Well, it's about discipline. It's about holding your responsibility, hitting the gaps when you're supposed to, and then when you get the chance, wrap up Tavon Hurst or whoever is running the ball, and you can't miss tackles. If you watch the Purdue-Notre Dame game this weekend, Notre Dame missed an inordinate amount of tackles, which freed up guys. You can't have that happen against Tavon Hurst, because if he slips out of your hands, he may go all the way to the house. So it's about discipline, getting in the gaps and wrapping up.
Yeah, if my numbers are correct, 758 yards on the season so far in 3 games, so the guy's averaging 250 plus a night. Certainly something to watch. Who's your pick in this game? Because it's a tough one. It's at New Haven.
It is at New Haven. I'm going to go with New Haven, but not by much. Carroll has the defense which will keep it in the game, so it's a flip-em game. It could go either way, but I'm going to go with the home team.
All right. I'll take the Chargers. They're on a roll right now.
You may be right.
We'll split it right down the middle. Homestead at Columbia City. We've already talked about the East Noble game last week. Columbia City, I was actually out there for the first quarter and a half, almost the full first half of the Belmont game. Belmont was rolling 14-0 until Forrest Fullenkamp, their quarterback, goes down with what looked like some sort of a leg injury, and they don't score any points after that.
Right.
You'd think in Belmont's offense that the quarterback isn't that big of a deal because they run the ball so much, but it certainly affected them. How does that play out perhaps for another week?
Well, if Forrest Fullenkamp can't play this week, then they're in trouble. Belmont really relies on him to kind of fuel their engine. Yes, they have Daniel Meyer and other guys that can run the ball, but he's kind of the fuel of the engine. So he's a big part of that offense, a very veteran leader in the huddle. And when things get dicey, he's a guy that calms everybody down. So that's a big blow to Belmont if indeed they can't have his services. But back to Homestead, Columbia City, what's really impressive about Columbia City is their balance offensively. People say, well, they run the spread and they're going to throw it all over the place. They can, but they also have some guys that can run the ball. But even more impressive than their offense is their defense. Has just been outstanding this year. And they're only giving up 10 points per game. And, just last week, you're down 14-0 to Belmont, a running team. Pretty much any other team, they're over with. They can't come back on a running team like that. But Columbia City did. They rallied for a 21-14 win, and now they're off to their first 3-0 start in 13 years.
I want to ask you the question that a lot of people have been either posting on our website or emailing in or just mentioning to us when we're at the games. They want to know, is Columbia City for real?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes. You just beat Belmont when you were down 14-0. Absolutely, they're for real. And Homestead's going to find that out. Homestead's defense is really shaky, really shaky. And Columbia City can put points on the board. And if Homestead struggles against that defense and they can't keep up in the track meet with Columbia City, they're going to be in trouble. My pick in this game is Columbia City. Until somebody knocks them off, give them their kudos.
Yeah, Randy Hudgens certainly had things going at the end of last season. They won 3 of their last 5, and now, starting in week 1, they're now 3-0 in this season. So it's really started to turn the table as Randy Hudgens at that school.
Well, and Coach Hudgens that has experience at Indianapolis Pike, has a great football program down there. This isn't his first rodeo. He knows how to coach football. He knows what winning football is like, and he's instilled that belief in those kids.
All right, and I want to move on to one NECC game because Angola's off to a great start. They can throw the ball. Alex Bauer, Robbie Boots, they've got a great passing offense up there. But they take on Lakeland, 2 3-0 teams, looking to perhaps compete for a conference title this year. Yeah,
they could. There's a number of undefeated teams in that league, and as always, it'll come down Cherubusco and Fairfield and Lakeland and that triumphant there. But I'll tell you, neither team in Angola or Lakeland has played anybody yet. Right. Lakeland has not faced a team with a win yet. Angola's only faced a team with 1 win so far. And this is a series that is very evenly matched. They split the last 6 matches, or last 6 games, and their defense is really carrying these guys so far, but against inferior opponents. So very, very even matchup. I'm going to go with the home team, the Hornets. I think they can get it done. But it's kind of hard to read these two teams right now because they haven't played anybody.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, their opponents are combined 1-17 so far this season, so it's hard to exactly know what you've got. But Angola's biggest win, I guess you would say that was against DeKalb, being a 4-8 team. Does that give you, DeKalb's down.
They're way down.
But does that give you, they're a little bigger, a little stronger than perhaps some of the smaller, the 2A and the 1A teams?
Well, sure. A winless 4A team is always better than a winless 1A team for the most part. So, yeah, it does. Angola has seen some bigger, stronger guys, so that'll prepare them for some of these tough games like Lakeland, Fairfield, Cherubusco. But really, it's hard to know what's going to happen in this game because they haven't played anybody. That's why in a pick'em game, go with a home team.
All right. Anything else we should be looking for this Friday night? As we've already kicked off conference play now in every conference, and each game from now on will count in a certain sense.
Well, it's really interesting. Every conference race has 2, 3, even sometimes 4 teams that are undefeated right now. So the conference races, it's really a battle every single week, and if you misstep one time, that could cost you the conference championship. So it's every single game is imperative at this level and this time of the year, and it's really interesting to see how these matchups are unfolding as the season progresses.
All right, we'll have it covered again next Monday on Inside the Zone. You got to wear a seersucker suit or something. You've got to step up the game next week and then take it all on. We want to see you in full regalia.
I put on a tux when I got married in 1989. Haven't had one on since, so, and never getting married again. So.
But at least see it's working for you when you have it on. It's working for you.
It does. It was a great day.
All right. Thank you very much. Tom Davis of the News Sentinel. I'm Glenn Marini, and thanks for logging on to Wayne.com.